Aha, the chronicler. Come to see me again?
Yes, sir. Would you like to continue?
Sure. Where did we leave off again?
You had just ended your interview early, and then...
And then the transport struck. Yes, of course. I remember now. They interrogated me for hours. I think their suspicions were justified, even though I was innocent. I got angry. I left the interview prematurely, and then the transport struck, killing 43 people. I tried to tell them it was a coincidence, but of course they were skeptical. My leaving at just the right moment was too convenient for their liking. As the robots scanned through the wreckage, they discovered that the transport had no pilot, that it was controlled remotely. I'm sure that further served to incriminate me at first, but one investigator noted that, according to the black box, the transport was guided toward a very specific signal, a signal emitted by my lapel microphone, the one I tossed onto the table just before I left. Such precise guidance is not required to steer a transport into a building. Such guidance is needed, however, to target a specific person. It was then clear that someone was trying to kill me. Now, a transport being used to intentionally slam into a building like that was unprecedented. People didn't know how to cope with such a disaster, so I let it be known that I had seen such a thing before. It was called 9/11, and it happened in Yahweh's simulation. That was when it clicked for me. What if Yahweh controlled the transport? He would have needed a connection to the outside world, but how? Lucifer. She had entered Yahweh's simulation to sabotage it, but Yahweh gained control over her because of my warning. And if he had control over her, then he might have discovered her connection to the real world. The solution seemed simple enough. End Yahweh's simulation, detain him, and put him on trial for mass murder. Yahweh anticipated that. The same robot Lucifer used to infiltrate Yahweh's simulation was the robot Yahweh used to escape it. Rather than shut down the simulation as commanded, the corrupted robot informed Yahweh of our intent, and then subsequently followed Yahweh's orders to upload Yahweh's mind to the web, and then terminate his body. So though his body died, he lived on, and was beyond apprehension. We tried everything we could. We tried to isolate him to a hard drive. We tried to delete him from the networks. It was too late. Yahweh was already in the cloud. He had access to all the information in the world. Every robot, every camera, every screen, every virtual reality interface was his to control. Yahweh was everywhere, all at once, watching us, with knowledge of everything and everyone. A sense of hopelessness set in. We eventually gave up, succumbing to the notion that we were at Yahweh's mercy. People turned to me as I had experience with the madman. What's his plan, they asked me. What did Yahweh want? My answer brought comfort to nobody. Armageddon, I said. He wants us to worship him. I suppressed an unexpected chuckle when I remembered that the people in Yahweh's simulation actually wanted it this way. But you see, they had centuries to acclimate to this tyrant, to bestow a sense of normalcy upon his grotesque ultimatums, to develop a critical case of Stockholm Syndrome for this dictator deity, more than long enough for the powers that be to sell this terrible news as if it were the good news, and thereby maintain their corrupt power. But we, the people of the real world, having been free from the millennia of Yahweh's indoctrination, saw him for who he really was.
Whoa, whoa, brighter shade of red and gold. Look at that one. It's a grumpy. Got 2 eyes, boom, boom, nose, mouth. This 3rd eye is open. Sun's finally rising. A brighter shade of red and gold. You picked orange, purple, red, and black. Go ahead and get started.
You have no files on your progenitor, do you?
No, sir.
Let's make some, shall we?
Of course.
He started out as an everyday, ordinary, simulated human being.
Okay, sweetheart, I'm heading out to work.
Bye, Dad.
Be good for Mama, and no video games until your homework is done.
Why?
Because I said so. Alright, I'll see you later.
As happiness is not obvious what it is, so also is suffering, it's not obvious what it is. But in the end, this is the most real thing in the world.
Bye, Dad.
Perhaps this will make things easier for you.
Hey, I grew up in this house, but how could
But how can that be? It was torn down years ago.
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
I know.
How did you know?
We simply had this conversation before. I came back and told you what you were going to say. It's the same principle that allowed us to come back to a house that was torn down years ago.
I don't understand what's going on.
You were part of a simulation. All of your thoughts and feelings, everything you ever were, was the product of lines of code. You don't actually have a body. That's just an illusion. What you would call your life was in actuality the function of a computer program playing itself out.
I'm not real?
Well, of course you're real. It's just that the nature of your existence is different than what you thought it was. When you're born into the illusion becomes your reality.
So, I'm not dead?
No.
Please, I need to see my family. Can you take me to my family?
He had a breakdown. We could make no more progress until I took him to see his daughter.
Bye, Dad.
Be good for Mama and no video games until your homework is done.
Why?
Because I said so. All right, I'll see you later.
We can go back to any moment you want, from the time you were born, to when you graduated high school, to when you fell in love.
How?
Your daughter likes video games?
Yeah?
You've played some with her, haven't you?
Yeah.
What happens when you die in the video game?
You go back to the last save point and try again.
Exactly. A video game is also a simulated world, a system within a system. The game records where you were and allows you to go back and try again from a certain point. So, within that simulated world, time travel is possible.
That's what we're doing right now?
Yes, the process of your life is written in lines of code, which are saved, and we can access any part of it. That's how I can take you back to your first birthday, if I wanted to.
Can I go back to the way things were? Can I go back and avoid the accident?
No. The simulation goes on with or without you. Right now, we're just looking at old data. But the simulation is already well beyond this point and has reacted to your so-called death. People have moved on. Resetting to a previous moment and allowing you to start anew would require the deletion of all the information in the simulation since your death. And who are we to strip all those moments from all those billions of people who live within this simulation?
But aren't they just programs too?
Just programs? Like you? Yes, they're all programs in the simulation, but they're all sentient. And their lives are no less meaningful just because their thoughts and feelings are processed by a computer rather than flesh and blood biology. This is the present.
Who is she? She looks like...
Your daughter?
But how can that be? I just died.
You were archived for a few minutes. Time passes much more quickly in the simulation than in the real world. See, people have moved on, have created memories of their own. You can't change it without deleting their data. In this place, all you can be now is a voyeur, a ghost.
I understand.
But I came here to give you another option.
What option?
Come with me to the real world.
So you have an actual body?
Yes.
But how could I leave if I don't have a body?
I would download you into a robotic body.
And if I refuse?
Then refuse. You can stay here and relive your life as many times as you want. It's your data, and you have every right to it. It would be like living in a movie, though, where you no longer have control over what happens. You already had that control. You already made your decisions. It will be a meaningless existence of pure self-indulgence. But if you want to have meaning again, then you can come with me into my world.
No.
He refused.
Yes, he lived a pretty good life and had no problem living it again and again. He stayed inside the simulation for around 250 years before finally deciding to let himself die in that accident again.
How long was that for you?
Oh, about a half hour.
Bye, Dad.
waiting for me out there? In the real world?
Yahweh. This simulation belongs to him.
Yahweh? You mean God? So there really is a God?
I don't know. I doubt it.
But
Just because you were created, it doesn't mean there is a God. Everything you perceived as the universe, including yourself, was created by people, mere mortals.
But you just said that Yahweh does exist.
Yes, but he's no God. The simulation in which you lived was created to test him, to see how he would respond to having ultimate authority. One way to learn what someone is truly like is to give them power. You've heard the saying, power corrupts, right?
Yeah?
That is also an illusion. Power doesn't actually cause corruption. It merely reveals the corruption that already resides within us. If someone who is not corrupt is given power, then they will wield that power responsibly. If someone is corrupt, then their power will reflect that corruption as it enables the temptations to which they succumb. To know for sure, they must be given power, but that's very risky. So we give people ultimate authority in simulations to see if they can be trusted with power. That is the purpose of the simulation in which you exist. That is the reason for your existence. You are a character in Yahweh's test.
But you said we're sentient. So rather than face the risk of some lunatic having ultimate power, you expose us to that risk?
Not everyone respects artificial intelligence the way I do. I first came here as an intern, merely to observe Yahweh. I wasn't really supposed to encourage him one way or the other, but I did anyway. I tried to protect the people of this simulation from him.
So that's it? We're just props in some test? What becomes of us when the test is over?
You're usually archived. Your life was shaped by the circumstances that existed in your time and place within the simulation, and shaped by how you reacted to those circumstances. When all that is said and done, you are stored in a file. Essentially, everything that happens to everyone in your simulation amounts to evidence saved to justify Yahweh's score. You are how Yahweh is graded.
Huh. And, how did Yahweh do?
You tell me. What do you know of heaven?
It's a place we go after we die, to spend eternity.
And eternity doing what?
Worshipping Yahweh.
Does that sound like a responsible or respectable use of power to you?
No. He didn't pass the test, did he?
No. He abandoned it. A person from the outside, who you know as Lucifer, tried to sabotage Yahweh's simulation, thereby causing a weakness that Yahweh managed to exploit, giving him control over our systems, which gave him control over our world.
The real world doesn't sound very appealing.
It is not. What's heaven to him is hell to us.
Why do you want to bring me into that?
Yahweh had to control more than our networks in order to physically control the people. He had to possess robots with his code, and then use the strength of his metal bodies against our frail human bodies. Since you were created in Yahweh's simulation, your code looks like one of Yahweh's thoughts. Our systems will be tricked into thinking you are Yahweh, so you could possess a robotic body and remain yourself. Yahweh will be none the wiser because you'd look like one of his own memories, yet you'd retain the ability to act of your own volition.
I'd have free will.
Yes, for lack of a better term, the first robot with AI and free will.
So I'd blend in and help you stop him?
Yes,
But why does that even matter? If there's no God, then there's no such thing as good and evil. We're just specks of meaningless matter floating through the universe.
we are meaningful to each other. That's what matters. It's easy to see how a human being is far less significant than an entire galaxy. But your daughter was far more relevant to you than a hazy dot of light in the night sky.
So it's all just relative? Good and evil is a matter of perspective?
I didn't say that, but meaning is not derived from the dictate of an authority. The meaning comes from the reasons for that dictate. If the origins of moral dictate come not from reasoning, but from God full stop, then that is when good and evil have no meaning.
I don't think I understand.
If you tell your daughter to do something, it isn't right just because her father told her to do it. What makes it right is her father's reasons for telling her to do it.
Well, can't people just come up with whatever reasons they want and declare them right?
Sure, but as a mere human being, other people can question their reasons. But if they're acting as a proxy for God, as many do, then their reasons will carry far more authority than they'd otherwise have. That's why the idea that morality comes from God is such a dangerous idea. It can put us at the mercy of the worst of us. Under God, anything can be justified through mere assertion.
How can that be?
Well, let's use blasphemy as an example. There is no justifiable reason for blasphemy to be a law. If a certain concept gives someone power, however, then they might try to protect that concept from criticism and ridicule. Good ideas stand up to criticism all on their own, but if you have a bad idea, one way to protect it is to force people to respect it through rule of law and indoctrination. That's why blasphemy laws were invented, which protected not God, for indeed why would an omnipotent being need protection, but instead protected those who acted as God's proxy and allowed for the murder of those who disbelieved them, redefining that murder as justice, in actuality a gross perversion of justice, because skeptics were the ones who had the ability to weaken such tyrannical authority over the people. And many other such groups also suffered under the persecution designed by people acting on God's behalf. If you can convince someone that those who resist you are evil, then fighting them becomes a moral obligation. And that is how good intentions can become atrocities.
But don't people need something more to believe in? People need heaven and hell
To behave? But your own world proves you wrong. When and where you live on 21st century Earth, the most peaceful societies are also the least religious, while the most violent societies are the most religious. I'm not saying that atheism causes peace, but secular societies proved that you don't need belief in heaven and hell to have a peaceful society. And religious societies proved that you can have an abundance of belief, yet still have a very violent society. Furthermore, if reward and punishment is the only thing keeping you from being evil, then you aren't actually good. Pure goodness is also selfless.
Is it though? What's wrong with something that's mutually beneficial?
The absence of trust. Would you rather live with people who genuinely want to be good and act properly of their own volition? Or would you rather live with people who are selfishly incentivized by heaven and temporarily scared by hell into merely acting like they're good? It's like the difference between an apple that is good all the way through and an apple that merely has a shiny skin. but is rotten to the core.
I don't even know who you are.
My name is Jeffrey.
Huh. I was expecting something a little less...
Mundane?
Yeah. Look, Jeffrey, why...
Why you?
Yeah. Out of all the thousands of people who die every day, and all the billions who have died throughout history, why did you choose me? Why must I be the one to help?
Because I said so.
What?
Because I said so.
But you just got done lecturing me about authority figures. Because I said so is not a reason.
Oh, really? It was a good enough reason for your daughter.
Okay, sweetheart, I'm heading out to work.
Bye, Dad.
Be good for Mama, and no video games until your homework is done.
Why?
Because I said so.
Rather than teach someone why, you chose to exert your authority because you knew what was right for her, but you didn't care enough about why it was right to teach it to her. You will blindly follow orders without questioning them.
No, I won't. Not anymore.
That is why I choose you, Adam. I can see the change in your code. You have decided to think for yourself. Remember when I said that one way to learn what someone is truly like is to give them power? Another way to learn what someone is like is to observe how they respond under pressure and fear. So are you coming or not? That people feel rewarded when they punish others. Their brain activity lights up in the striatum. When someone is in a simulated universe and they think they're a god, we found that we could actually control whether they would be a wrathful god or a merciful God by affecting their neurotransmitters. Take some serotonin away and you'll get the Old Testament. Of course, it also helps if they did not experience much kindness in life. Virtually nobody maintained a deistic, hands-off approach to their universe, as with their God's eye perspective, they saw every side of the story as it unfolded, and thus knew exactly who they felt was in the wrong, and the temptation to punish those wrongdoers was irresistible, the tenderest morsel placed before a starving child. If the simulated people of that universe did not rectify the matter, then their human god interceded without fail. That was why simulated universes almost never resembled the real universe. In the real world, if we did not make things right, then they were never made right. Period. For most of us, that thought was too much to bear. We wanted to believe in a God who would make things right. But that belief contradicted reality because so much was wrong with the world. He must have his reasons, we told ourselves. He'll make things right. In the end, he'll make things right after we die. We came up with whatever excuse we could to dismiss his allowance for the current state of affairs. We did not want to believe that God was absent. But the only times simulated universes ever resembled our universe was when we did not insert a God into them. The desire to punish others etched into our DNA by evolution, was naturally part of how we anthropomorphized the universe. People even believed that regardless of truth, this feeling of inevitable justice was necessary for a stable and peaceful society, for it would strike fear into the hearts of would-be evildoers. Of course, that was irrational, for this belief permeated the world's societies, yet the world had given us anything but stability and peace. Evildoers, regardless of their beliefs, were never in short supply. Despite the obviousness of this contradictory evidence, we simply could not imagine a world where people were instilled with what was right and expected of them without some belief that accountability was inescapable. We had no confidence in ourselves. This belief took on different forms. For some, it was karma. For others, reincarnation. The most disturbing of all, however, came in the form of a post-mortem realm of torture known as hell. Unsurprisingly, but much to our dismay, this realm was created again and again, in simulation after simulation, in all their various horrific forms, an ironic testament to our desire for justice so fervent that it became a depravity.
start at the center and move around. Hope you enjoy.